So, I want to talk about Star Wars The Force Awakens. In preparation for the new movie, The Last Jedi, I wanted to take some time and go back and reminisce on the movie that came out 2 years ago. So, let me get started here on my initial memories of how this all happened was sometime in 2012, Disney announced they were going to buy Star Wars from, George Lucas. And, we had our thoughts of the original trilogy, episodes one, two, and three. I thought they were kind of short sighted, not very good. And so when Disney announced they were buying it from them, my initial thoughts was, well, you can't do any worse. Um, but then, after announcing that they were purchasing it from them for a very small amount of $4 billion, and the very next number, they said um, they were gonna make three movies right off the bat. Um, I kind of had a little bit of a hesitation there because they said, "Hey, we're buying it. Not only are we buying it, we're releasing three more movies in the next 5 years or 6 years or however." So that led me to believe that they were gonna force something out that might not be the best of quality, and they were gonna milk it for all it's worth. So sure enough, they announced episode seven, eight, and nine, and then they turned around and said, we're gonna hire J.J. Abrams to do episode seven. Now those that know me personally know that I am not the biggest fan of J.J. Abrams, simply from his line of work from TV to eventual foray to movies. Um, I've watched him ever since he's done Alias, the TV show, moving on to Lost, and then on to the movies, Mission Impossible 3, that other little sci-fi property that I won't talk about here, respect to those fanboys out there. But he seems to follow the same premise of um, visually stunning. There's nothing wrong with him there, but he's always a little short on the storyline there. He's a great visual director. You see some excellent action scenes, and he sets up the story with no problem. But the finish always comes off kind of weak. And one of his biggest problems, sorry about that. One of his biggest problems is he leaves out some of the more crucial details. For example, in Mission Impossible 3, uh, everybody was going after the rabbit's foot. And simply because they were going after the rabbit's foot was because a bad guy who was a weapons dealer wanted it. But we never knew what the rabbit's foot was. For all we know, it could have been the recipe for his aunt's apple pie recipe. We never knew what danger it presented. We just knew that everybody wanted it. So therefore, it had to have been a bad thing. If you looked at all the other movies, it was, hey, uh, I apologize. The knock list was going to get out. That's a bad thing. Nuclear warfare, bad thing. A virus going out, that's a bad thing. Oh, hey, we have a rabbit's foot. So what is it? Well, we don't care, but we're just going to say it's bad. That's J.J. Abrams in a nutshell. So, uh, we go here to Star Wars, and sure enough, we get a storyline that very bland, very basic, nothing new. Visually stunning, but really nothing new here. And so I'll just go ahead and get started here. So right off the bat, Luke is missing, and folks are trying to find him. Um, right off the bat, I had a problem because we have a resistance and the first order. So I apologize. I'm getting over a little cold here, or developing one. I hate to say, but it's been snowing for the past couple of days, so who knows? I might be getting a cold. So we start off with the first order. So if we go off of episode 6 here, the Empire is the overwhelming government, and the not the resistance, but the rebellion. That's the word. They are the little guys. So the little guys beat the Empire, and so therefore, as far as I know, reading the books and what Disney said, well, we're going to do away with. I'm under the presumption that the rebellion is the overwhelming power now, and that the First Order is the underwhelming power, or they might be equals. We never really establish who is the more dominant figure here. Um, but we have this little thing called a resistance. So I'm it's not the same as the empire. Empire is sounds bad. A rebellion sounds like, hey, we're rebelling against the overwhelming power. Using the words the first order just says, okay, we have a group of people here and we have a resistance who's resisting against them. It's their derivative of the previous entities, the empire and the rebellion. So you almost get the feeling that we're back where we were again. So it's like, okay, is this another rebellion? Is this another fight against the overwhelming power? What's going on here? So everybody's trying to find Luke Skywalker, and we're on the planet of Jakku, and somebody has information on where Luke Skywalker is, and we meet Poe Dameron, and so the First Order shows up. They kill everybody except for one particular stormtrooper who, for some reason, has a you know epiphany that what they're doing is wrong. Now, as far as I could tell, I apologize again. As far as I can tell, according to the movie, that these guys are trained from birth to be stormtroopers. So as far as they know, whatever they're doing is, in their minds, the right things. But he comes out there and just flakes. I don't get it. Okay, he just all of a sudden decides, hey, this is the wrong thing to do. He You don't hear him question anything while he's fighting. He doesn't. While he's seeing the people being killed, he doesn't stop and go, sir, why are we killing these people? You're not seeing a level of resistance. He just stands there. He does nothing. Um, in my opinion, when they said, hey, kill everybody here, he stops, sir, and then is there a problem? No, sir. And then he doesn't have to fire his weapon and kill everybody. And they say, hey, why didn't you fire your weapon? Then he goes, oh, there's something wrong with my weapon. Okay, check it in. And then he goes, yes, sir. And then as he's about to go back on board, back to the First Order, he sabotages his weapon. That kind of gives you a more definitive understanding that he's kind of having a conscience. But in the movie, he just stands there looking like a moron. And I kind of hate that because you're not getting a clear understanding of what the heck he's doing. He's just standing there. And since he's got a mask on, you don't know if he's questioning himself or what. He's doing nothing. That means nothing to me as a movie going audience. So, he goes, he rescues Poe Dameron, and, Poe Dameron's like, why are you helping me? Because it's the right thing to do. Well, how do you know what the right thing to do is when you've been raised as a stormtrooper all your life? I'm pretty sure that your understanding of right and wrong will be heavily skewed. So they get up and escape. They're escaping from, with a little itty bitty TIE fighter. They get shot down, and then all of a sudden, Poe's by himself in the sand. Um, that makes no sense to me. And Poe's nowhere to be seen. It's not they said, hey, we're ejecting, or hey, I'm ejecting you, Finn, or anything. It's just all of a sudden he's in the sand. Now, last time I looked, if you crash from outer space, you're and into hard sand or any type of hard substance surface, you're not going to make it. That should have been a little bit more understanding of how he kind of survived. I understand it's not the most. It doesn't have to be. And, and granted, if you're listening to this video, this is me nitpicking the movie. But these are the thoughts I had when I watched it, because it's just all of a sudden he's alive. Okay, you're not giving me much information there how he survives. Those little things, kind of gnaw at me as I'm watching the movie. So these aren't things that after watching it for the 10th time, these are things that come to my mind as I watch it for the first time. So he survived. And then, we run into Rey. She's doing her thing on, some crash Star Destroyers. That's cool. That's everything. And then, we find out, she's not living the most luxurious of lives. And, they run into each other. Okay, that's fine. Uh, and, they run into stormtroopers. Sorry. They run into some stormtroopers. Then they escape on the Millennium Falcon, which was pretty cool. That was I have to admit, as a fan of the movies, the reintroduction of the Millennium Falcon into the storyline was pretty novel. They're running and they say, "Hey, how about we get on that plane or that ship? That one's garbage. We don't see what it is." And they're like, "Okay, we're gonna go to the other one." The other one gets blown up. I say, okay, we'll take the garbage one. And we turn around this Millennium Falcon. That right there was really, really cool. Because as a fanboy, you're going, oh, that's awesome. So they get on and they take off. And what's next is a very awesome action piece with the Millennium Falcon flying all around, seeing it upside down and everything. If you had any level of motion sickness, that was one that could have made you reaching for the vomit bags. But it was really, really cool. And then they're flying all in and out of the star destroyers, and they flip around, and they destroy the TIE fighters. That was really cool. Uh, and so they go in outer space, and apparently once you're in outer space, you don't have to fly the thing anymore because Ray and Finn are talking in the middle of the spaceship, not paying attention to what's going on, and so they get captured. You know, one would think if you're in the cockpit and we're talking to each other, you would have noticed this big ass ship coming up toward you. You would have heard the little warning signs and everything. But since they were in the middle of the ship chatting, they didn't see it. They get captured. Uh, but luckily enough, it was Han Solo and Chewbacca. How I thought that was a little bit stretch of a coincidence, but it was still pretty cool to see those guys. We haven't seen them since 1983, and here we are, 30 some odd years later. Um, so seeing them again, brings a nice little bit of nostalgia. So, you know, Han Solo says, yeah, the Force and everything that happened way back when, is real and all that's going on. And so, they're like, all right, cool. Then we go into a whole scene that, in my personal opinion, did absolutely nothing for me. And that was the scene with the Reptars. Han, is smuggling Reptars or whatever they're called. A couple of gang units, pop up and they're like, "Hey, you know, you've jacked us around, and hey, you happen to have a BB-8 unit." And he goes, "Okay." And then the Reptars escape, and they start eating everybody up, and then they escape on the ship with the Millennium Falcon. Now, granted, you needed a plot device to jump back on the Millennium Falcon and move on, but I thought that was a very poor one. They could have done something better there because that was a full 10, 15 minutes I thought was just completely useless. Okay, so, we go to, instead of Han going straight to the Resistance, he takes Ray and Finn to Ma's whatever her name is, Cantina. Of course, to introduce us to more people and to sell more toys, in which Ray runs into a lightsaber, and the minute she touches it, she touches the lightsaber, she goes into a whole psychedelic dream sequence of scenes we saw from The Empire Strikes Back to other movies, and we hear voices from the past and all this kind of stuff. And she wakes up and she's like, "Holy shit, this was a bad trip," and she runs off into the woods. Because I mean, quite honestly, I mean, you touch something and you run into that, you're gonna put it down and go, "Get me the hell out of here." So she runs off, and you know, at that time, that's when the folks on the Starkiller Base. Come on now, it's just another Death Star. It's just a different name. We go from Death Star to Star Killer. After 30 years, you think you'd come up with a different name or a more original name. And somehow they're taking the power from the sun, so they can shoot off a laser, which somehow splits off into multiple lasers and blows up multiple planets at the same time. So that freaks everybody out. And the First Order comes and attacks uh, Mas Katanas, whatever, area Cantina. So my thoughts on let me take a side note here. So my thoughts on the whole um, Starkiller Base. I mean, this is what I'm not a scientist. I'm not an engineer. This is where just my nitpickiness is. It's like, okay, if the First Order is the overriding entity, then I can kind of see how these guys are able to make it and nobody's able to do anything. But going off the ending of Return of the Jedi, I would presume the New Republic, probably would have had an idea this was going on, and probably shouldn't have waited until it was up and operational to blow the thing up. And folks can say, well, they were doing it in secret. Guys, it was a planet. Okay, in order to change a planet into a death ray machine, is really not something that you can do in secret. Okay, you're gonna notice that all of a sudden, hey, this planet is freaking changing. Okay, it's anybody can notice that, and you're dealing with a lot of people going from traveling around from in and out of space, and with on a project that big, I'm sure somebody will notice that a lot of resources are going towards this particular planet. First order or not, and somebody might want to check that out because hey, somebody's ordering some powerful stuff to work here. I'm just saying, okay, it's really no different than noticing that maybe a couple of gallons or whatever of uranium's going to the same place. Hey, I wonder what they're doing there. It's kind of how North Korea right now has been working on nuclear weapons. Granted, we've sat there and let them do it. Maybe they opted to do nothing. So I'm willing to work with that one. That maybe they just sat there and say, "Oh, they'll never make it work," and then they're surprised that they made it work. So I'll give them that. But a big old planet, I think somebody should have intervened way before then. That's capable of destroying multiple planets. So back to the main story here. So we go on and uh was it what's his face? Kylo Ren finds, Ray, kidnaps her, while everybody else is, fighting and Poe Dameron's flying around and doing what he does. And so they need to go rescue Ray from Starkiller Base. But before uh, they do that, they have to come up with a plan. We meet Leia again, and the plan is to destroy Starkiller Base. Now, anybody watching this scene should have had an immediate sense of nostalgia from the first Star Wars because they're going, boy, this sounds incredibly familiar. We fly to this planet, find the weak point, and blow it up. Let's see. That was a plot from episode 4 and episode 6. And if you really want to throw, you know, episode 1 was kind of the same way too. So, um, we were seeing this thing for the third, technically the fourth time in 7 movies. Come on now, really? You can't come up with anything else than a huge death ray, beast. So Han, Finn, and Chewbacca, uh, they fly to Starkiller Base, which is happens to be a snow-covered planet. And they're taking the remnants of the sun. Which, let me go on the side note here. Another side note. Once again, not an engineer, but if you have a planet that can take the energy of the sun, one, if you kill your sun, you're killing up the whatever entire galaxy that sun is providing life to. And last I looked, that particular Starkiller Base didn't have any rockets to really move anywhere else. Now, neither did the Death Star, if you want, for argument's sake. But this was a planet, so to take a planet and move its, well, if there's no sun, there's no gravitational pull, but there's really nowhere else for it to go. So you would basically kill everybody that's on the planet because you have no other sun to work off with. Um, and two, to even harness a portion of the power of the sun, and they're not saying it's solar powered, where they absorb, they're actually taking the power of the sun. The the planet should have been one insanely hot, and two, I mean, you're talking about a whole lot of energy there. Okay, No single oscillator is going to be able to absorb all that energy from the sun. That's no matter how many times you fire it up. And in this particular movie, they only did it twice. So the first time, by using the math that they're giving us, the first time they shut off the ray, they used up half of the power of the sun. And the second time when they were powering up, they used the other half. So half the power of the sun, which usually is alive for billions of years, is inside this tiny little planet. That's a lot of energy. Okay, no planet is going to be able to withstand that. No. Anyway, that's just my particular opinion on there. So, uh, they find Ray. They set up some charges, and then you know Han Solo sees Kylo Ren walking on this incredibly long plankway, which has no guardrails. Okay, if you watch the movie, at the end there's a couple of guardrails, but the entire walkway there's no guardrails. So anybody walking on this thing trips, they're falling 100 200 feet into whatever. So who on earth will walk on this damn thing? I don't know, because stormtrooper or not, or part of the new first order or not, somebody says, hey, I need you to walk on this thing, I'm going, the hell with you, go walk on it your damn self, because I'm not falling off the thing, or put some damn guardrails on it so at least I don't fall off. I mean, even ancient civilizations, when they made rope bridges across mountains, they had guardrails so they can hold on to. So apparently, these technologically advanced people that can create death lasers that absorb the power of the sun don't have time to make guardrails. I don't get it. So Han Solo meets up with Kylo Ren, goes, hey, son, you need to come back home. And Kylo Ren says, yeah, whatever, and kills him. So, I gave it a big whatever. So, they escape. Finn and Kylo Ren fight. And, Finn realizes, we all realize that Finn is incredibly useless, so he gets, jacked up and it goes unconscious. And then Ray realizes, she has a bit of the Force, because she told some stormtrooper to let her go, and he did. And then now she was able to, pull the lightsaber towards her, and they're fighting. But then, he goes, hey, I can teach you the way of the Force. And then she stops and inhales for about, 2 minutes. And then, while Kylo Ren just stands there, and then she goes, oh, yeah, I'm going to kick your ass now. And so, she slices his face, and then that's it. But, the whole planet's collapsing about him. So she goes back, gets Finn, Chewbacca lands. They get on the Millennium Falcon. Poe Dameron on his X-wing, he's blown up the oscillator, so the whole planet's about to blow up and everything. They all escape. Planet blows up, like we haven't seen that before, and everybody flies away. Woohoo! Right? So this big old unoriginal ending. So here we are. Han Solo's dead. We get back to the Resistance base, and this was one huge problem I had. One huge problem I had. Okay, Chewbacca and Leia. Okay, they were, they'd known each other since Episode 1, which by this time we're hitting over the 35, almost the 40-year mark. Soon as Chewbacca, who's lost his friend Han Solo, and Leia, who's been friends with Han Solo for multiple decades now, they get off the Millennium Falcon and they walk right by each other. Really? Okay. Now, I'll tell you right now, there are people that I've known that have passed away that I haven't talked to in a while. But once they've passed away, I go to friends and family and give them a hug and say, "Hey, we both lost a friend." Okay, these two completely walk by each other. These are Han's two closest friends and family, and they just walk right by each other like nothing happened. That was a huge faux pas on J.J. Abrams' fault. This is my problem with J.J. Abrams. He doesn't pay attention to details like that. I think he came back later and said, "Oh yeah, I screwed up," but it's too late. You already filmed it incorrectly. You screwed up. Okay, and then you know, Leia goes and talks to Rey and goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, we found out where Luke is." Which brings me to another side note. So I'm not sure how long Luke has been gone, but R2D2 sitting there doing absolutely nothing for the sake of the whole movie, and then of course we blow up the Starkiller Base. R2D2 magically wakes up and goes, "Oh yeah, I figured everything out. I just need this one last piece that BB-8's been holding on to on the thumb drive for the entire movie." Once again, it's one of those MacGuffins that they just throw in there and say, "Well, this is what we're going to throw in because we don't know exactly what to do here." That's lazy writing. Okay, that's you could have had R2D2 with Luke the entire time. You could have had, hey, this is where we last. You could have easily said, "Hey, this is where he was last seen. We don't know where he's gone since then, but somehow somebody knows where he's gone, and R2D2's asleep." It's what they did here was just poor writing. Okay, so now they know where Luke is, and it's on some island, not too far away. So Rey and Chewbacca get on the Millennium Falcon. They go to the island, and then Rey takes the lightsaber, walks up to Luke Skywalker, and they sit there and stare at each other for like it feels like 10 minutes while she's holding out his lightsaber to him, and then finally the movie ends. Guys, that was not the way to end the movie. I mean, if it had been me, I would have preferred not to have seen Luke. You just have them. They take off, sort of like Empire Strikes Back ending, where they just say, "Hey, we're gonna go find Luke. Uh, we'll see you there or whatever." They go fly off. Boom, end of the movie. Move on. It's like a clear ending of a chapter. Where this one, you have these two stare at each other like morons. I mean, literally, they just stay. The movie cuts back to and forth to each other for like a full 2 or 3 minutes of them staring at each other. Obviously, Luke doesn't say a word, and Rey just stares at him too, and it's just like, okay, what the hell is this going on? And then it ends. I didn't like how the movie ended. So, anyway, that was really, I mean, how I felt as I watched the movie. And what was so funny was as the movie ended, my wife, who was sitting right next to me, of course, leans right over and she goes, "What the hell did I just watch?" Okay, now my wife isn't a huge, movie person. She doesn't really, nitpick to the level I do. But she goes, "Wait a second, I saw this movie before 30 years ago. That don't tell me I just paid, you know, $10, $15 to watch the same damn movie again." She goes, "I've seen it already." Okay, that's exactly what happened when we saw this movie. Okay, so I'm hoping as we get to episode 8, which we'll see in the next couple of days, that they stopped and said, "Okay, we're gonna fix a few things here," but ultimately J.J. Abrams is gonna direct episode 9, so whatever they've undone, he can redo. So, in a nutshell, those are my thoughts on episode 7. I think it was a very derivative piece of work, something we've seen before. It was just okay. There was a lot of visual striking scenes which were very good, but ultimately just very lackluster. So if you want to have me give you a grade on it, I would say definitely a C minus, or I'm sorry, a C plus B minus type. Um, Definitely something where a lot of the smaller details, even though a lot of people don't notice, those are the things that make the movie as good as they were. Granted, I'm not going to say the original movies were, the absolute best movies I've ever seen, but they were just handled a little bit better. So, anyway, that's my movie memory for Star Wars: The Force Awakens. If you liked what you heard, hit the like button. And if you want to hear more of my movie memories or upcoming movie reviews, hit that subscribe button and that notification button, so you'll see more of those coming up. Anyway, this is Grumpy D signing out. Peace.